from Distant Sales, he from Reddit as well. He says, "How early in the game's development was the Game Boy Color art style decided on, and how did it come about?" And goes on a bit further. Did it influence your did you influence the decision, and was there a particular moment where the art direction really clicked and started coming together for you?
That is a really cool question. There's a lot I could say about that. I could actually show some stuff that would help illustrate my answer.
Go for it. Yeah. Screen share. I think it's the
let's do that.
Middle button at the bottom.
Can you see that?
I can indeed. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so in answer to the question, the Game Boy Color art style was decided on from day one.
Wow.
That sort of came packaged as part of Mina's original pitch. So what I think would be interesting to show is sort of the formation from what it looked like originally, from the prototyping stage, to sort of how it evolved and became what it looks like now, which was a pretty long process and involved multiple people. And so I think it would be most interesting to kind of explain, whose hands kind of got into things when and how that developed as it did. So I guess just to preface, right after Shovel Knight Treasure Trove wrapped up with King of Cards, which was the last entry in that series, we were, as a team, we took a little break and then we came back and we were trying to decide what our next game would be. And unbeknownst to anyone else in the company, one of our designers, Alec Faulkner, was working on a Game Boy Color styled prototype of his own little game, just kind of in his free time on the side. And I was doing one too. And we both had the idea to come in and pitch to the team our games as a potential next project. And so we both pitched, and Alex was basically Mina in its most basic form. And it sort of looked like this.
Oh wow. It's really close to the end.
It's really close.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. And so, you had the roses, you had Mina as this little mouse girl. She had her whip was her only weapon at the time, that what is now the Night Star. But yeah, it really played in, she had her burrow. It really played in a very similar way, close to the version that we have now. Certainly it went through a ton of iteration. It was completely remade from the ground up, but the basics were there, the skeletal structure of what Mina became. And so this is what it looked like. And so this set the Game Boy Color tone.
Wow.
And interestingly, this is what I was working on at the time, which was also a Game Boy Color game.
See,
and
that's actually closer to how I remember Game Boy Color, to be fair, in terms of you've got the white bottom and everything there. It's Mina the Hollower is it looks very much like Game Boy Color, but it's almost like a Game Boy Color Advance, shall we say, in terms of how close it is.
Yes. And so it's funny you say that, because what we ended up settling on wanting was a game that looked more reflective of the end of the Game Boy Color's life cycle. The Zelda Oracle games are just a perfect example of that. I think those games really pushed the visual hardware restrictions of what the Game Boy Color could accomplish at the time to the furthest heights. I mean, it's a gorgeous looking game. But that's so these were basically two experiments, that came together to form what Mina is now. I mean, you can even see here, there's some tiles that I just took right from my prototype and dropped them into Mina.
Nothing wrong with reusing assets. It gets the game out quick.
Well, yeah. Well, and also this was just an experiment. This is just a study of me trying to learn Game Boy Color, visuals and working within their restrictions. And so when Alec presented this, we were thinking, okay, well, how can we take this style and just sort of crank it up to develop our own brand of Game Boy Color Plus, right? I guess that's what I would call it. And so some of the first mock-ups I did while Alec was on design, was something like this. I was like, well, what could it be? Like, I'm just going to try and like push the colors and push the textures as like far as, as they can go, referencing a lot of stuff like Dragon Quest Monsters on Game Boy Color. Dragon Quest 3 on Game Boy Color was also a big inspiration. And obviously the Zelda games, so like Link's Awakening and Oracle games. And so that was kind of where our heads were at early on. And then one of the takeaways from this, and this was just a test for me. I was just trying to like see what we could do with creating a style that felt unique, I guess, in that space. Like I didn't want it to feel, none of us wanted it to feel like a Link's Awakening ripoff or anything, right? So we were really trying to like blend the aesthetics of like a bunch of our favorite games of that era, and specifically on Game Boy Color.
To be fair, I've got Link's Awakening here. I mean, on my channel, I've been going through every single Zelda game over the past few years, and it gives like the spirit and the feeling of Link's Awakening, but it very quickly becomes, well, pretty much unlike anything else I've ever played, really. So yeah, that was the goal. Rip-off.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, we all work really hard trying to make it look unique. Like we wanted it to be reminiscent of like a Zelda game from that era, but not like, to stand wholly on its own, effectively. And I think it really does, visually as well as like in a gameplay sense. It just really feels like it's its own fresh, unique thing. But so, and then looking at this, the colors, like the world is very saturated. There are a lot of like warm colors here. And one thing that, as I mentioned before, we really wanted to hit upon was that this is a bleak, dark, gothic world. It does have a lot of charm. There's a lot of like cute characters, but we didn't want it to feel like you're on an alien planet or something, right? It's like, no, this is like a Victorian era city or an island.
Particularly the reflection of the moon there, it works really well.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Yeah. So, I mean, then we ended up taking it to a different place. It was like, okay, how can we make the palette more reflective of, that atmosphere we're trying to set, the mood we're trying to set. So we brought the saturation down to like cooler, sort of more grounded colors for the environments. And at the same time, keeping the characters and things that you interact with in the world, like these bones, more saturated. So they would really pop against the cooler, darker colors in the background. And that actually lent itself really well to gameplay readability, because when you leave the saturated, like brighter colors for interactable things that you want the player to like keep focus on and keep their attention on, that contrast like really works perfectly. So, stuff like this, it was like, much the color palette really started to kind of take shape here.
That green ghost drove me up the wall.
Yeah. I don't blame you. That was definitely a nod to everyone's least favorite enemy in Mario games. But
oh, nice.
I think it's great.
That makes sense. Yeah, I died multiple times at the beginning with that thing. So,
but yeah, I mean, and so this was like a really early screenshot. This is no longer representative of like what this is the crypt area. It doesn't really look like this anymore. But this was like a really good early starting point for us, where we're like, okay, this is where we feel like Mina's aesthetic is like really taking shape and coming into its own. And now, I mean, I can even show like, this is what it looks like now.
Final.
So it really just, we went through so much iteration and refinement, and just the team working together to try and like, push and pull things until it just felt really, like it was in a good spot.
It's crazy as well. I mean, if you released it and how it looked in the earlier stuff, that would still be really good. So, I mean, I think whatever stage you would have released it at, it would have still been incredible. But like, I mean, clearly this is like the best version of it. But I think any version of it would have been incredible to see.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, and just to kind of quickly illustrate why we made these changes, it's like you can see here, we were trying to make efforts to increase gameplay readability by making collision, like the walls and the pillars, darker colors, so like, okay, well, I can't walk there, and the ground is like the brighter colors, right? Well, it's like, okay, that's walkable space. But here we took the sort of gray, like flood fills, for lack of a better term, out of the previous version and added more color contrast. So this is where you can see like their complementary colors with like the kind of orangish brown of the walls now in the crypt, and like the blues and the cooler colors that you get in the ground. And so that sort of like even further helps disconnect those two things as being like walkable space here and collision, stuff that you are not going to be able to get past.
It's crazy how much how important the art is to game design in order to make it, like say, make it readable and make sure people just don't end up hitting everything and trying in order to try and escape. I mean, like with the original Zelda, looking back on that, obviously it's very early days of pixel art and everything. In order to find a secret cave or anything else, you literally just had to bomb everything and hope that you found something. There was always like with Shovel Knight, there's always a hint that something is there and that if you hit it, it will break and open something up. And yeah, you did an absolutely fantastic job of sort of showing that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, that was always the challenge, especially when you're working at a resolution that's this tiny. It's like, well, okay, when, I mean, it's 256 by 144, right? So there's not a whole lot of screen real estate. You really got to like, and that's widescreen, right? We have more real estate than Game Boy Color did. So you really have to make like optimal use of the space that you have, and making sure that everything's readable, that colors like distinguish between, gameplay, play field, and collision, and just like making sure that the player's not going to get lost is both like our goal and our biggest challenge.
That kind of answers a question from a Reddit user, Red Painted Houses. They asked, what was the biggest challenge in approaching a new art style different from those in Shovel Knight games, going from NES to Game Boy Color? I suppose that's kind of your answer, really, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, so the NES palette we were working with is restricted to a very specific 56 colors. I know that the team, and I wasn't working on the original Shovel Knight, I came on later, but the team added a few extra colors in just to make sure that they could sort of round things out. It's hard to get like very smooth gradients with the NES palette, if that's all you're using. But yeah, so on Shovel Knight, it was just the NES palette, 56 colors. For Mina, we wanted to have more of a Game Boy Color, a palette reflective, of the Game Boy Color. And so we created our own. We weren't going to stick with the NES palette because that didn't make sense for this game. And so that was a whole process in and of itself. I actually have, so if you take a look at this, this was a really early test
of ages with the tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. This was us testing like, okay, well, what are the colors that we like from like Game Boy games that we'd love to bring in for Mina? And so you can see here, like, okay, well, this like yellow is perfect from Link's Awakening. And, like, okay, this is a nice purple that contrasts well with this like orange in the spray. And, just really like color picking directly from games that we liked. And yeah, there's a lot of Oracle game stuff here for sure.
Really incredible to see the process behind all of this. Like I've only recently, a couple of years ago, replayed the Oracle of Ages and Seasons games, and yeah, I can see it so well in where you've pulled all this from. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and this is only like half of it. This was our first attempt at creating a palette. And what's interesting about the Game Boy Color is, we're not, Mina is a modern game. Like we never set out or claim that it's a retro game. It's retro inspired, right? So we do a lot of stuff that does like break the rules as to like what the Game Boy Color hardware itself could actually allow. Like Mina, there's no way Mina could play on a Game Boy Color cartridge.
If it could play on this, I'd be very impressed.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. What kind of frame rate do you think you would get out of it on Game Boy Color?
Come on, shoot for 120. That's the goal.
If the Game Boy Color could even output, I mean, I assume it could only do 30 back then, but if it could hit 120, I bet someone out there can figure out how to do it.
Hey, I mean, well, let's put that challenge out into the world. I'm sure there are so many talented people out there. I'm sure somebody will mod that at some point.
We'll put a bounty on it. Whoever can put Mina the Hollower onto Game Boy Color at 120 FPS, I will buy you a deluxe version of Shovel Knight when it releases.
Yeah. Okay. Good prize. Good
Deal.
prize.